go. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inspiring Connections, episode 16. We're getting up there.
Yes.
How you doing, Misty?
Good. How are you, Marty?
Very good. On today's episode, we have a very interesting topic, especially for those who do blogging or social media for business. We are going to talk the law, and we have a real special guest.
Yeah, we have Sara Hawkins, and she is a lawyer. But please note that what you will hear is not any legal advice. It's really more of information.
That's our disclosure.
Yes.
You have to say that. So if you need legal advice, please contact your attorney or even Sarah outside of this conversation. But for the purposes of this conversation, and we want to remind everyone, this was taken from our live show
last Sunday.
This past Sunday, PodJam TV Live. We do this every Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And Sarah was kind enough to come on and talk about the law as it relates to internet marketing and social media. We got a little bit into brand ambassadorship, representing a product or a brand, and what you have to disclose.
About sweepstakes and a lot more.
Contests and all that stuff. So a great 30 minutes coming up. So without any further ado, let's get right to it with Sara Hawkins. Sarah, welcome to PodJam TV Live. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Good to be part of it. Great to see you and kind of be part of the PodJam family now.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Oh, it's great. Why don't we get right into it with our first question? And, both Misty and I have been involved in blogging for quite a number of years. It's growing every day. Social media is still fairly new, growing every day. There are people making businesses out of it. And for social media and blog promotions and contests, that seems to be real popular now. In fact, we just ran a contest just recently. What are the three most important considerations that you need to know in terms of the law impacting those activities, especially contests and promotions?
I think the first thing to know is that there's a difference between a contest and a sweepstakes. When it comes to promotions, whether online or offline, the laws are different for contests than they are for sweepstakes. Most bloggers and online companies will tend to use a sweepstakes, which is a drawing by where the winner is chosen by random, whether it's out of a hat or through some type of fancy mechanism. They'll draw the winner in a random way. Whereas a contest, there's some subjective or even objective standard. So on Facebook, you'll see photo contests, and the winner, there's often a number of rounds to choose the finalists, and then the winner is chosen based on whatever the criteria that are set. So I think that's the first thing, is to understand that there's a difference, and the laws about them are different. Since most are using a sweepstakes, I think that it's important to understand who your audience is and who can enter. So in the United States, we have laws that are different than those in Canada. So we'll often see blog promotions that exclude people from Canada, and that's not a personal choice, but it's because the laws for a sweepstakes in Canada are actually the laws for us are mirrored to the laws for a contest in the United States. So they're both called the same thing. So I think that's one important thing to understand, is that if you're going to open it up outside of your country, then you need to know what the laws of those countries are. So that's the first thing. The second is that you need to have rules for it, and your rules should be in writing and accessible to anyone who's entering. So there should be something you can click to, a rules page or something, and the rules should not change throughout the promotion. So once they're written, they're written. I think the third thing to understand is that the more expensive your promotion is, that there are special laws related to it, and also depending on what you're giving away in terms of whether, obviously, in the United States, you cannot give away tobacco, firearms, alcohol, and in some places you can't give away dairy. So, if you happen to be a cheese company or something. But a lot of people now want to give away really big prizes, and that drives traffic, it gets clicks, and really that's what you're going for. So if your group of prizes, if what you're giving away between the grand prize and all the other prizes exceed $5,000, then in New York and in Florida, there are separate requirements for certain types of filings. And I think the other thing to point out is that if you're involving somebody under the age of 18, especially in the United States, there are specific laws relating to that fact that minors cannot enter into a contract. And so kind of you're opening yourself up, not just from the legal side of things and having issues with the state and stuff like that, but then depending on what you're giving away, you may not actually be able to give it to a minor.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's very interesting.
That's why you'll always see the person has to be from the United States. You often see the person has to be from the United States. They have to be 18 or older, and then it'll say void where prohibited, and that means that if for whatever reason it's not valid in that state, so they're giving away cheese or something, then it won't be valid in those states. So
it's very interesting.
Yeah, so when we see that, I've always wondered about that
yeah.
void where prohibited, because that's a very common term in terms for contests, and so I guess that's a kind of a catch-all, I guess, huh?
It kind of is, and it basically is to say that if I happen to have missed something along the way, and you're from a state that can't participate, then it will be voided there.
Oh, okay.
Then you can enter all you want, but you can't win, type of thing. And I'm sorry. So.
And you mentioned about prices, and you said people would wanna. Do they need to disclose the amount of the price as well? Like especially if it's expensive.
Well, you should in the rules you should disclose what the approximate retail value is, so that the winner will know, because the winner will be required to pay taxes on whatever the value is. And it's fantastic to give something away that, give away 2 iPads and you're over $1,000 and you're going to get a lot of clicks, and it's fantastic because you'll likely get the results. The thing is that the person who wins these things may not be able to pay the taxes on it, and because the value is over $600, you as a company or as an individual really giving away something valued over $600, you need to obtain their Social Security number and provide them with a 1099.
So that's like income. That's not like property taxes. That's more like income taxes.
Taxes. It's right. So if PodJam TV wants to give away, a fully tricked out iPad, and the retail value of it is $649 or what, we'll just throw that number out. Then the person who wins, you need to obtain their Social Security number, and then issue them for the 2013 tax year, so sometime before end of February 2014, issue them a 1099. And that way the IRS knows that you gave a prize, because you're likely going to deduct that from your taxes as a business expense. And so then the match on that is that the IRS gets the information on the person who received it, so they should pay taxes on it.
So that's really
Right.
only if you, so that's providing a match. So only if you deduct it as a big business expense. If you didn't deduct it, then you don't have to worry about it. Is that?
Actually, you do.
Okay.
It's an informational. It's an informational return.
Yep.
So if you choose not to file it, that doesn't mean that they don't have to account for it.
Okay.
But not that the IRS is trolling us, because they're looking after, according to the news, they're following other people.
Right.
But the fact that our information as online marketers, the information's online. So if you were ever audited for any other purpose and they're looking for your information on, and they see this promotion, then they might ask you about it. They have every right to. And, did you provide this information,
When
to
you
the
did
winner?
The promotion, yeah.
Yeah,
Got
when you
it.
did the promotion.
Yeah.
And it's hard because a lot of people, who wants to ask someone for their social security?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's always difficult.
Usually what I do is, I try to counsel my clients to, find a prize that's of a good value, that's valuable, that's less than $600.
Yeah.
That's a good. That's a good
That's
rule
a
of thumb.
very, very
$600
good
retail
rule.
value.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of tracking, everybody, that's a big thing nowadays. Privacy, and we hear all about it. It's currently in the news in a lot of different ways. And people that have websites, you see privacy policies and all that. Why do websites need privacy policies in the first place? And if you were to have one or get one, who should craft it?
Most states have a privacy policy. California requires them for almost all types of companies that do business in California. And if you're online, chances are you're doing business in California. Someone from California will get onto your site. There are a number of auto-generator disclosure policies and privacy policies online. And for the most part, it's a good place to start. But if you don't understand what it's saying, then I wouldn't suggest ever putting it on your site, because you may be agreeing to something that's opposite of what you do. I mean, if you don't know what a web beacon is, don't tell people that you aren't using web beacon. If you actually set cookies on your site, or you don't know whether your site sets cookies, then you should investigate those types of things. I often will have people start with something that they've found online and go through and tell me what they do or do not have, and then I can help tweak it for them to keep their costs lower. For larger corporate sites, I just write them up. And I think people there aren't a lot of lawyers like me. I mean, to be honest, there aren't a lot of lawyers out there who really understand and the full integration of social media marketing and the law. And so when you go to a lawyer who understands privacy issues, they might understand it at a more global level. And if they charge their time at $400, $500 an hour, nobody really wants to pay $2,000 for a privacy policy. Especially if your site is not generating that much money, so that $2,000 is a really good portion of your annual income. But I try to keep costs low to help rather than hinder this process. And that's why a privacy policy that's more vague or broad is probably better than no privacy policy.
Okay.
But the reason that they're out there is because people who come to websites should know what information you're keeping about them.
Yep.
And if you're asking people to subscribe to your newsletter, and they have to input their zip code because you're doing some tracking and things like that, if you're keeping that information, then they should know that you're going to use it to track them. Or if you're asking, are you male or female? People have different types of sites, Do you live within the United States? Are you outside of the United States, especially if you're asking demographic information? And it's really just to let people know what information is out there, and how you're going to use it. Because I don't know about you, I don't mind giving someone my email. I don't want them to then turn around and sell it.
Yep.
And
at least you want to know. At least you want to know in advance. If you're asking for again, I guess that's the key here. If you're going to ask for this information, they should know up front. Okay, what information you're asking for. How are you going to use it now or in the future before they commit to any kind of relationship with you or give you any other information? I would imagine.
Right. And the other thing is that if you know that your site is attractive to children under 13, there are then separate laws, the Children Online Privacy and Protection Act, COPPA,
Okay.
And it's specifically for children 13 and under. Well, under 13, which is kind of that cutoff point, which is why you see Facebook, you have to be 13, and Instagram and a number of other platforms, you have to be 13. It's because of the amount of information that they collect. They don't then want to take that extra step and build in protections for children under 13.
Okay.
So if your site is something that might be attractive to those visitors, you have to take that into consideration as well.
Okay. Switching gears a little bit, many of us, including Missy and I, work with brands. We're brand ambassadors. I know in a lot of the blogging space, this is very popular, and brands are starting to come around to this as a great way, a very effective way to promote their products. For brand ambassadors or those doing social media promotions, what do they need to know about the FTC disclosures? I know that's a big topic right now, and it's constantly changing, and I think a lot of people new to it might be a little surprised as far as, okay, it's not just as simple as just putting up a post, I love this product. And especially if you're getting product, I would imagine, for free or some type of consideration, there's some things you need to know. And can you fill us?
I guess one would be for social media, especially. That's the usual question whenever.
I guess there's two things, social media and blogging.
One is social media, and then the other one is blogging, because we just got also a question on Twitter regarding the blogging part, but maybe we could start off with the social media part.
My basic philosophy is that disclosure is a really good thing. It's something that I think a lot of people are afraid of, and they think that if they tell people that they work for a company or getting paid, getting something free, then it will be discounted, and that they'll look like a sellout or that they're a paid shill, something like that. And I actually believe that, if we just tell people that we got it free or are being, are working with this company, it'll be much more. I think people will value our opinions.
Plus, you're more transparent, right?
Yeah, that's the transparency. And when we talk to our friends in person, face to face, we often tell them, and they don't judge us negatively. So if we assume that the people that are reading our social media streams and the people who are reading our blogs and going to our website are people who value us, then we should, like you said, be transparent about it. The recent update to the FTC disclosures state that if your platform cannot accommodate the disclosure, then that's not the platform for you. Okay. And there's been some talk about the .com disclosures versus the endorsement guides. So the endorsement guides is actually the law part of it, and the .com disclosures is a guide also, where everyone who says, gosh, I wish the FTC would just tell me what to do, that's where they do it. And that was originally written, long before the internet looks like it does now. It was written it came out in 2000, so obviously it was written in the late 90s. There was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, there was no such thing as, a mobile website. And now we have all of these things. And they, in that update recently, they basically said don't put certain types of hashtags, just put ad. And tell people, it's AD,
an ad. Yep.
and AD space. That's three characters on a 140 platform. And so now we start to see the hashtag ad, and the reason for hashtagging is for tracking, but then you're pulling up all kinds of things. So if you just put ad in the beginning and then let it go with whatever you're going to say, then you're telling people what it is.
Okay.
The problem is that with just putting ad, the people don't know whether you're a brand ambassador or you're just doing this one paid obligation. And so it isn't as seamless and as easy as they would like it to be. I think the FTC would like it to be, or would seem that it would be. Because if you're a brand ambassador and you're paid, I work with Verizon, the Verizon team. I know Misty and Marty. I think both of you do as well. And so we test out products for them and share our opinions about testing out products. We're not compensated with money. And so,
is there a difference there? That's an interesting point, because in this space, a lot of people including us, will get free product, not necessarily compensated for cash above and beyond that. Is there a difference between being compensated cash strictly for that service in addition to the free product, or just getting the free product? Is there a difference how you handle that?
I think sometimes there can be, because if you're a paid ambassador for a soda company and they pay for you for their placement on PodJam TV, and so like many TV shows, they'll have a special cup, and that's where they drink their beverage from. And if you have that and it's prominently placed for PodJam TV, you would just say, we are sponsored by such and such a beverage company. And then when you go to Twitter to then put that out, PodJam sponsored by, you would need to put ad. But then there's hey, I'm at such and such a restaurant and they don't have my favorite beverage. That's not part of that brand ambassador program.
Right.
And so that's kind of all that gray area. And
Got it.
The idea of the transparency to put that out there, it's so much easier when you're blogging because you've got lots more space.
Yes.
And I think even on Facebook, and
more space.
Instagram, where you have much more space, or Tumblr, and
I think Twitter is the one that's really hard.
Twitter is really the hardest one.
It's 140 characters, and you have to say everything all.
Yeah, your message and also the disclosures. That's a lot to do in 140 characters.
Right, it is. And if you have a link, especially if you have a link, you want them to know that this is a paid tweet of some form of compensated in some way, and the FTC says you have to do it every single time. Whether that sometimes you're in the moment and you are actually just speaking very freely, and you don't. Every time you talk to your friend about your phone, you say, "Hey, I got it free." It has this really cool flashlight. Oh, hey, I got it free. Look at my picture on my fancy phone. And that's the hard part, is that once you tell somebody, and you're face to face, but when you've got thousands of followers, you don't know which one is coming at which point in time. And so, I think with the FTC, they're looking for, first off, they're not looking at individual you and me totally screwing something up. What they're really looking for are brand promotions, and they're looking at PR agencies, and they're looking at the brands and how are they handling it.
Okay.
So from that perspective, as a brand ambassador or somebody working on a one-off campaign, is to ensure with the PR company you're working with or the brand representative you're working with that they understand you will be making disclosures.
Okay.
Because recently I've had situations where brands and PR people are saying, don't worry about the disclosure part, or don't put it in. And that would be the biggest red flag, because you may not be the one that the FTC is coming after, but do you really want to be involved if your big brand is
trying to hide? Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And if they're investigated and then they find out that you're working with them, the FTC has every right to ask you, may I have the emails?
Right.
And
Like,
do you want to hire an
happened?
attorney? Yeah. Do you want to hire an attorney, and then, or do you want to deal with their attorney about, evidence and all this other stuff? It's,
this is great conversation.
Yeah, it's very informative.
Oh, and Suzanne is actually she sent us a question over on Twitter, and it's related. It's really more on the blog itself.
Okay.
She says, when you do disclosure, do you put it on top or the bottom of the blog, or is it even relevant when you're doing a review for a certain product?
It is very relevant, and the law for that actually has not changed, and the FTC, and it's been this way for 15 plus years, that all disclosures must be clear and conspicuous.
Okay.
And be prior to any decision making that the person will make. And it's hard because we have clicks. Sometimes we have, outbound links, and sometimes it's just content. And so a lot of people started putting them at the bottom. The fact is they actually should go at the top. And what I like to tell people is you don't have to get fancy. I mean, the FTC does not require special language. They don't require, references to any particular laws or anything like that. The whole point is that someone reading it will know that you have a material relationship. Whether it's free product, whether you're compensated, it doesn't matter, but you have a material relationship. If you work for the company, and Misty, when you were working at the ad agency, if you were talking about a client, you would need to then say, I love this, I love this brand, they're a client, they're not paying me, whatever it is. But especially if you use it in your own words and say, I really appreciate that such and such a brand sent this to me to review. And so for us, with regard to the Verizon, when we write about it, if we integrate it more closely, for example, and say, I was recently at an event, I was provided with, this new special type of phone. I'm really looking forward to using it. And I've been using, whatever all it is, or I've been using it. Marty, you did a really great one on the EQ for phones and how to adjust that information. And when you talk about it, you're like, I learned this, I found this great way to do this on the phone I was provided from such and such a company.
Right.
And then it's seamlessly integrated into it.
Right. So it's more about transparency. I mean, it's less about all this legal language. You just have to use a lot of common sense and know that the purpose of it is to be transparent with the audience and know what your relationship is and where where you're coming from with this, right? Right.
Yeah. The challenge with that comes also with in audio platforms. So like Podjam TV is mainly an audio platform, but it has a video component, and so you have to disclose both in the audio portion of it. So if somebody's not watching the video, and then you also have to disclose in the video portion of it in case somebody doesn't have the audio on at that time. And so YouTube is a challenge for people as well because it has both the audio and the video component, so it has to be both. It should be up front, and it doesn't require any fancy language. On my posts, I do add the reference to what specific law requires this, mainly because I know people will come to my site looking for this type of stuff, and as a way to educate, I do offer that so that they know more about why I'm disclosing if they're interested.
Right. Excellent.
And the other thing is you don't have to negatively disclose, but again, there's the transparency thing. So if you're a brand ambassador and you're talking about various brands, or you've gotten a number of products free, and people then just assume that, oh, look, Marty's got this really nice shirt on, I bet he got it free. Then you don't have to then say, I didn't get my shirt free,
Right.
But at the same time, do people expect that, when you pull out, a phone, or, you're using a new computer, and, you don't have to then say, I'm typing this on I love my new Apple MacBook Pro, which I paid for myself.
I wish I was getting new MacBook Pros for free. That'd be really good.
But no, it's
That's
been a
very
big
interesting,
issue
though. Yeah.
It's been a big issue with the people who have the Google Glass,
I
because
can
some got
imagine.
it free, and some got it free, and some had to pay for it.
Yeah, I can
Oh, my
imagine.
goodness.
Man, it's been a fast 30 minutes. Wow. It goes by fast. Sarah, can you believe it? It's 30 minutes. It goes by very, very fast here. Sarah, we want to thank you very much for coming on with us.
Maybe we should invite her again for a part 2.
Oh, this is a big topic. This is a real big topic, but it was tremendous having you on. Boy, wasn't that a interesting episode, and a very fast episode. A lot of information there with Sarah. Very interesting topic. I think a topic that a lot of people don't really, or people that are bloggers or social media people, business people, maybe don't really give a lot of thought to, especially people new to the business. So a lot of great information there,
especially about the taxes.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's
too.
a great point. The taxes involved in if you have a giveaway.
And I love the way Sarah explained to us that you can actually use your own voice. Just make sure that you're really transparent.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that complicated. The transparency, I think, is the important thing.
You don't need to use fancy words when you do your disclosure.
Yeah, very, very important. Thank you, Sara Hawkins. In fact, I am sure we'll have her back on a future episode. There's a lot of other topics we want to discuss.
And if you want to know where to reach her, we'll be putting everything in the show notes.
In the show notes, yes. So I think that'll do it for another episode of Inspiring Connection. But before we go, we'd like to point out the content in this episode and most of our episodes of Inspiring Connections come from or repurposed from a live show that we do. We use Google Hangouts as our platform. We do a live show every Sunday night, or at least hopefully every Sunday night, unless we're traveling, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And we have interesting guests like Sarah, and we talk live. And what's great about that platform is you guys can ask questions live via Twitter.
All they need to do is follow the hashtag PTV Live.
Yep.
And then they just send us their questions.
Absolutely. Now we embed the show live. All you have to do is remember podjam.tv/live. You go to that page, it's right there, and you can view it right there at 8:30 on Sunday nights. Also, if you can't catch the show live, it is available on replay at that same spot, podjam.tv/live. And of course, you can get a lot of this content through our podcast, Inspiring Connections. Before we go, just a quick reminder, one of the places our podcast is available is iTunes, along with Stitcher Radio. But we would really appreciate it if you like this content and you find it useful. Please go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, hopefully, a little write-up. It helps the visibility of the podcast. And if you do leave a 5-star review, we will certainly mention you on a future show.
Yep.
I think that'll do it for another week, right?
Yes.
So thanks, everyone, for listening, watching, tuning in. This is Marty and Misty, Podjam TV, with another edition of Inspiring Connections. We will see you next time.
Go.